Hello, and welcome to Hanratty on Karate. Just following up on different camps, courses, seminars, gashiku, whatever you want to call them. So I just said a lot about the California camps with Nishiyama, which were absolutely brilliant and really taught me a lot. My mountain camps up in Banff National Park in the mountains, which were kind of like an Ironman camp. If you ever went there, you kind of got that idea. We'd get in on the Friday and we'd have to hike in. They didn't allow the cars there. Set up the tents, and then we'd start off early morning training at 6 o'clock Saturday morning out in the open field. Maybe grab a bit of breakfast after, and then, work on through the day. And at night, they'd all sit around the campfire and absolutely knackered and just have some war stories and stuff like that. Might be a guitar, everybody be singing. But they were really good camps, and as I say, we did them for like 25 years up in the mountains. And when I started, I was one of the founder members of WSKA, World Shotokan Karate Association, in 1990. Well, it was 1989. I'd decided we were going to split from Nishiyama because that was our relationship to the JKA. He was our JKA, if you like, contact. And he was putting people into Canada, but it didn't always work out. We started off with, I think it was Jerry Marr was the leading Canadian JKA, and I was number 2. Jerry Marr's in Winnipeg, out in Calgary. Now, prior to that, there was already a JKA representative in Carleton University in Ottawa, Sensei Saiki. Really, really nice guy. Good karate man. Still works, but he wasn't political at all. He still isn't. And I admire him for that. He's one of the best around. But we had Yamaguchi come out, Toru Yamaguchi come out for some seminars. In the early 80s, we started bringing him out. Really nice guy. One of the really pleasant Japanese to get on with. No arrogance, and language wasn't a barrier. He spoke pretty good English, or we all got by anyway. And he had a good sense of humor. And he was a really nice person, Yamaguchi. His original name was Iwazumi, and he took his wife's surname when he married. Some Japanese men do that just to continue the lineage, if you like. Anyway, I found him really great, and he came up and stayed at my house in Calgary once. And I got pictures of him mowing my lawn. He thought it was amazing that we had so much of a front yard that we had to mow it with a motor mower and stuff like that. And anyway, he was just dying to get on this mower. And yeah, he made a really good job of it too. I say he was a nice guy. So we asked him, could we maybe get a Japanese instructor out in the West? And he said, yeah, he'd sort something out. He sent us Yasu Sakurai. Yasu Sakurai had formerly been in Montreal, but I don't know, he got into a little bit of trouble. What we heard from Yamaguchi was he got into a little bit of trouble in Japan. I'm not sure if he was messing around, it was woman trouble or not, but they sent him to Montreal, and apparently the same thing happened there. So, and after Yamaguchi had vouched for him, he wasn't too happy with him, so he sent him out west. And he was based in Vancouver, where he used to come out and do seminars for us. Had him at my dojo quite a few times. Seemed a really pleasant guy, good-looking Japanese guy. In fact, he got parts in a TV series called Airwolf as a baddie, punching people and stuff like that. He's a nice guy. He had top of his little finger missing. Read into that what you might. But he wouldn't discuss it. So we went down to the camp at La Jolla, and Sakurai was down there as an assistant. So Yamaguchi was there. There was a whole group of Japanese there. I'm not sure if this was the year that we graded, and there was just a load of politics going on all over the place. But apparently Yamaguchi had a word with Shirai, and Shirai brought Sakurai up to do a demo with him and proceeded to beat the living daylights out of him. Like, Sakurai was pretty much bruised from head to toe, and really opened my eyes as to what a top-class JK instructor could do. Or he just threw him around like a rag doll. Anyway, as I say, in 89, I was getting a bit cheesed off with everything. And so I phoned back to the UK and I spoke to my sensei and said, we're getting a little cheesed off. And he said, well, a few years ago, they'd started something called the European Shotokan Karate Association, ESKA. And it was really popular. They had a competition every year. All the European countries competed against each other. They all used show whip-on rules, which I loved. And it was very popular. And he said, we're thinking of starting a world Shotokan Karate organization. So why don't you form your own organization for Canada and come in as a Canadian member? So I did. And we had quite a number of clubs, some out on the West Coast, some in Saskatchewan, some in Manitoba. Toronto and Ontario and Quebec, a little bit different. I don't know what it is there. It's a lot more commercial than it is out west. But anyway, we couldn't get too many member clubs there. One or two over the years, but, they come in, they drop out, they come in, they drop out. Not a great deal of consistency. But anyway, I went to a meeting in '89 in Ferrara, in Italy. And we had the meeting, and this was mostly European leaders, and I'd also invited Ray Dalke from the US, who's a good friend of mine, to come to the competition and get in on the meeting and see what he thought. And Dick Gould from the US was also with him. So we had all of the big names of the European associations, Ted from Sweden, of course, and Burra from Denmark, just a whole bunch of them. Kirk DeMitt, I think, was there from Belgium. And it was there was a competition taking place, an ESKA competition taking place in Ferrara that weekend. So, I said to Ray, if we're thinking of doing this World Shotokan Karate Association, then this is the kind of competition that we'll be putting on. We're not going to be putting on Wuho stuff or WKF as it is now. We'll be going to put on show whip-on. So we all decided at that meeting that we were going to start it. We got a constitution laid out. Charlie Naylor was president. And the first secretary was Glenn Avery. And we had Derek Langham. I was vice president because I'd offered to put the next competition in '91. I'd offered to host that in Calgary, which I did. So the competition in Ferrara was an eye-opener. You'll see highlights of it on YouTube all over the place. It looked rough, but it was typical karate what we were used to. There was still no fist pads then and no mats. We used the gym floor. And I've got to admit that the Ferrara people, the Italian group, they put on a fantastic demonstration. I thought it was amazing. They all did like Basai Dai, but they had the music in the background, and of course it was Zarathustra, like the opening of 2001, A Space Odyssey. Da-da-da-da. It was really good. Anyway, they did Kanko Dai to that, and then of course just a ton of little individual kumite demonstrations going on throughout. So it was really impressive, and impressed the hell out of Ray Dalke. He said it used to be like that in the States, but it just wasn't like that anymore. And he was just over the moon that he thought that real karate had made a comeback. I say we ran the World Championships in Calgary in '91. We had just on 30 countries there. It was probably the biggest one ever or since. But getting back to camps, Ray invited me to come and teach at one of his camps. And his camp was down in a place called Idlewild in the San Bernadino Mountains. It's really high up, over 7,000 feet. You were gasping for breath. And it was like 80 degrees Fahrenheit, or, about 33, 34 centigrade. And it was a wicked camp. Of course, I was all keen to get in there and show them what we did and what we were looking for as a standard for WSKA, that we were going to try and bring up the standard of karate for everybody. It was a tough camp. It was really a tough camp. I remember I got annoyed at one guy. He was an ex-Brit, and he taught at the University of California down in Redlands, which is south of Riverside in Southern California, and he had a class there. And what got me was, it was supposed to be a go-down, a fifth dan at the time. I don't know who gave me it. But anyway, I'm running a class, and I noticed this guy sitting at the front of the class. He didn't bow in or anything. He just came in, took a chair, sat on his chair, and started making notes. So I'm looking at him, and anyway, we have a break. We had to have a water break because people were fainting and everything. I walked down. I said, "Who are you?" He said, "Oh, I'm Sensei David Johnson." That's what he called Sensei David Johnson. I never refer to myself as Sensei or anything. And I said, "Oh." I said, "Well, what are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm taking notes on your class." I said, "Well, you know, it'd be good manners if you'd ask my permission to do that. And if you're going to be in this class, then get in the class, bow in, bow out with everyone else, and get in the lineup." "Oh, I don't do that. I'm a Godan." I said, "Fine, get out." And Ray comes up and he goes, "Oh, he'll come into the next class." I said, "Okay." So I finished my class, and then Ray did the afternoon session, and we started off on Kumite. And I was dying to get lined up with this guy, but I kept missing it because Ray had told him he had to be in the class. And I kept missing it, and end up I'm with Andy Holmes, and Andy Holmes standing next to me, and he's facing this guy, Johnson. So I just switched places fast with Andy Holmes. And when it come to the attack, and I just went in all out. Anyway, I knocked him on his butt, and just looked at him and gave a little nod and said, "That's what you're up against, you know." The other reason I didn't like him is we had like a men's dormitory and a women's dormitory, and he thought he should sleep in the women's dormitory in his own room. You know, everyone else was in like multiple beds or multiple bunks and rooms, you know, but he had to be in his own. Anyway, I just forgot about it after that camp. It was a great camp, absolutely knackered. Everyone got a ton out of it. We did loads and loads of really good drills, really good sequences, great stuff on basics. And if you never ever had a chance to train with Ray Dalke, you really missed out, because in a gi, the guy was magic. In a gi. I'm not saying he was political, but he went that way eventually, and which was unfortunate, because as soon as he put a gi on, you forgot everything, and you just had to watch him. He was as good as any Japanese I saw. And of course, he had his student Ed Otis with him, and quite a few other guys there. There was a young Kevin Warner, young Chris Dalke. They were all up-and-coming guys. And anyway, when we finished that camp, we all headed off back down the mountain. And I never saw this guy Johnson again until 93, when we had, was it 93? No, it was 95. We had the World Championships in Sunderland in the UK. Fantastic championships. I got to say, everybody was just over the moon. The atmosphere was great. I was still vice president. I was officiating as well, one of the refs. So all the officials got called out to the councillors' chambers, and the mayor had put on a dinner for us, you know, all the people who were on the board of WSKA and stuff. So after that, we all raced back, because they were having an after party, and the after parties at WSKA are something worth seeing. Well, they were then. The after party was in this great big water park or aquatic centre in Sunderland. So much went on in Sunderland, it was hard to not have a good memory of every night we were there. But anyway, they had this party in the aquatic centre, so I was rushing back to get out of my my shirt and tie and blazer, and put on some shorts and get in the water with the lads, have a laugh. So I'm getting changed in the changing room, and this David Johnson guy comes in. He'd obviously had a pint or two, and he says, "You hit me in Idlewild." I said, "Yeah, I know I did." I said, "You were being a dick." And he didn't like it. He says, "Well, you could have done some serious damage." I said, "Yeah, I could have done some serious damage, so, you know, go away, leave me alone, I don't like you." You know, so I carried on getting changed, but he kept chirping on and on and on. And just as I turned round to him, Gord Matty come in. Gord on the Scottish team. I'm not sure he was coaching then, he may have been fighting. Gord's a big lad, he's about 6'4", something like that. You can't miss him, big bald head, really happy looking fella. Anyway, I said, "Listen," I said, "if you don't let me get changed and get out of here," I said, "I'm going to smack you again." And Gord looks at him and he goes, "You bloody well will, you know, lad." And I said, "Yeah, that's right." And anyway, he kept on chirping, and Gord goes, "Are you going to hit him, John?" I said, "Yeah." So he kept on chirping, turned around, smacked him right into the showers, finished getting changed and walked out. Never seen him again since, which is all right with me. And sometimes you just have to let people know what you'll stand for and what you won't stand for. And some people are just wankers. You can't take it. You can't take it, forget it. Walk away from them. Don't let them spoil your day. So going back to Sunderland, what a fantastic place to have a competition. Absolute brilliant. I think the after party went on till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Last I seen Ray Dalke, there was 2 guys on either side of him carrying him round just so he could stay up. He didn't want to go to bed. It was brilliant. So anyway, I went to a few Ray Dalke camps. I taught at a few. Isle of the Wild, I think we did a couple of years there, and then we did a couple down on the coast in San Diego at Loma Point, and then Ray kind of backed out of it. Then he got a little bit political and stuff like that. He sold his dojo in Riverside, which is a shame because it was a fantastic dojo. He got it for next to nothing. I think he bought the building for $1 off the city. It used to be an old substation or something, and they'd made it into a dojo. It was brilliant. It was absolutely perfect for training, and everybody liked it. And he brought up some fantastic fighters from there. We used to go down there to his competitions every year. We used to just have a blast. All my lads used to love going down to California. Not so much now, but, then it was great. As I say, I did a load of camps with Ray, and then Ray, as I say, became a little bit political, and he decided he was going to move out from Riverside. And let's say this with Ray, he was an extremely good businessman. He had a fantastic house, swimming pool, 15, 18-foot ceilings, games rooms, just about everything. I remember when all the lads at one competition, we all went back to Ray's place. He put on a big barbecue for us. It was only him and his wife, Katie, lived there. Lovely lady. And she was head of nursing at Loma Linda Hospital or something like that. And they put on a barbecue. Ray went out of his way. And he said, I always wanted this house to be full of people like this. He said, it's just great. And the house was so big, it had a little suite on the side, a self-contained suite, a bedroom, kitchen, bathroom. And that's where I used to stay, right behind the garage. Anyway, he had this swimming pool, and we all decided we were going to play water polo. Well, you see 2 karate teams playing water polo. It was practically full contact. I'm so surprised nobody got drowned. But what a day, just brilliant. And alongside his swimming pool, he had a big hot tub, so we were there most of the night. After the competition in the daytime, that's when we went back, had the big barbecue in the pool, and then in the hot tub at night. And I think we drank every drop of beer he had, and he kept a well-stocked bar. Anyway, it was California, so maybe next episode I'll tell you how we carried on the California camps, although at a different location under different auspices, but probably even better camps than the ones we had in Idlewild and Loma Linda and down in San Diego. Okay, so take care. Any questions or comments or need to get hold of me, give me a shout.